This is to give you fluidity in binomial expansion. So for x plus 2 all squared, we're going to say x times x first, that's x squared. Then x times 2 times 2, that's going to give us positive 4x. And then 2 times 2 is going to give us positive 4. Next, x times x is x squared. Then x times negative 3 times 2, which would be negative 6x. Lastly, negative 3 times negative 3, which is positive 9. Here, 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 4 times 2 is going to be 12 times 2, which is 24, so it's going to be positive 24x. And then 4 times 4, which is going to be 16. And that finishes. Next, 5x times 5x is 25x squared. 5x times negative 2 times 2 is going to be negative 20x. Negative 20x. And then negative 2 times negative 2, which is going to give us 4. Okay. Next, 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 3y times 2 is going to give us 12xy. And then 3y times 3y is going to give us 9, positive 9y squared. Now, sine times sine is going to give us sine squared. Sine times negative cosine times 2 is going to give us negative 2 sine cosine. And then negative cosine times negative cosine will give us positive cosine squared. Now this can be simplified just a bit. We can sum the sine squared and the cosine squared and get a 1 minus 2 sine theta cosine theta. Okay, let's do the binomial expansion of third powers. Okay, so with this we start off by saying x times x times x. That's going to give us x cubed. Next, we want x times x times 2 times 3. That's going to give us 6x squared. Next, we want to say x times 2 times 2 times 3. Well, that's going to give us a 12, positive 12x. And lastly, we want to get 2 times 2 times 2. That's going to give us 8. And there's 8 there. Now, next, the x minus 3. So x times x times x, that's your x cubed. X times negative 3 times 2 is going to give us negative 6x squared. X times negative 3 times 2 is going to give us positive 18x. And then finally, negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is going to give us a negative 27. Okay. Next, 3x times 3x times 3x gives us 27x cubed. 3x times 3x times 4 times 3 is going to give us, let's see, 9 times 12. That's going to be 120, take away 12, which is 108 x squared. Next, we need 3x times 4 times 4 times 3. That's going to give us a 12 times 12, which is 144. And that'll be x. And lastly, 4 times 4 times 4, which will be 64. Okay. Next, 5x times 5x times 5x is going to be 125x cubed. Next, we want 5x times 5x times negative 2 times 3. That's going to give us negative, that'll be 25 times 2, which is 50, and then 50 times 3, which is going to be a negative 150 x squared. Next, we need 5x times negative 2 times negative 2 times 3. Well, that's going to be 10 times 6, which is 60. So positive 60x. And lastly, we're going to need a negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which is negative 8. Okay. Here, 2x times 2x times 2x is 8x cubed. A 2x times 2x times a 3y times 3, which gives us 4 times 9, which is 36. So positive 36 x squared y. Okay, next we need 2x times 3y times 3y times 3. And that's going to give us 6 times 9, which is 54. So plus 54xy squared. And lastly, we need 3y times 3y times 3y. And that'll give us a positive 27y to the third power. Okay. All right, for our sine function, sine and cosine function, sine times sine times sine is going to be sine cubed. Sine times negative cosine times 3 is going to be negative 3 sine squared cosine. Then sine times negative cosine times 3 is going to be positive 3 sine cosine squared. And finally, negative cosine times negative cosine times negative cosine is going to give us negative cosine cubed.